Welcome back to the Dirt Drive, guys. My name's Trevor. With me today, we've got Tom Sylvester back.
Yo, yo.
And we've got Tim back as well.
Cherokee King in the building.
No.
Square Light Squad shirts will be available on our website.
There you go.
That's right. I went to your website the other day looking for bumpers for Mackenzie's Jeep.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Today we'll be doing an intro on our...
Well, we're starting a mini-series.
That's
so we're doing a mini-series about the different styles of off-roading, overlanding, however you want to look at it. Today we're going to be focusing on the overlanding aspect of it. So really easy category for beginners to get into, people who are just trying to get a feel for what's out there in their local area across the country. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is kind of the what, where, why. You would get into that aspect of it, what vehicle you should look at getting. Some of the stuff may get a little technical today. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us on all of our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the Dirt Drive Podcast. And let's get into it.
Yep, let's do it. So what is overlanding, Tom, since you're the resident expert on four-wheel off-road?
Sure. So overlanding is basically a road trip without highways.
Where you live out of your vehicle.
Yeah, it's a self-sustaining process where you take your gear, you put it in a vehicle, you drive somewhere cool and remote and far away and relax, be in nature. It's camping with a little bit of driving.
It's like van life in a 4x4.
Yeah, and it's if you're into any kind of off-roading, it kind of blends everything together, right? Like, we're all in it because we're gearheads, we like adventure, whatever. And overlanding is just kind of the starter point, the blend of everything that's fun to us and to probably most of you guys listening, that allows you to have that adventure. And if you can put it into one rig and not have to, rent a trailer or, have to be unorganized or unprepared and not be able to go and see those cool remote places or camp for 2 or 3 days. There's a lot of benefit to being self-sustaining. And,
what's really enticing about it to me is you can just pick up and your rig is already set up. You just pick up and go. You leave the driveway and you just start driving. It's not about the destination; it's about the trip.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of serious overlanding people would say it is about the destination, but getting there is the excitement.
It's a part of it.
Right? It's a road trip. It's all the destination. Sitting on an interstate for 12 hours, boring, right? Yeah. Cruise control, you're seeing the same 10 billboards every 5 miles. But if you're overlanding, maybe that 3-day trip isn't 500, 600 miles a day. It's 10 miles a day. And it's cool forest roads. It's along a lake. It's up a mountain. Through the desert if you're out west, whatever it is. And it's the ability to remove yourself from the hustle and bustle of
kind of escape into the woods. Yeah. But also a trip, not just driving in circles in the same campground like we kind of do when we go out. Yeah,
but at the same time, like the rock crawling aspect of it, the more extreme driving of the 4x4 world is, I think, a lot more stressful.
Yeah. So it is still there in overlanding, though. Some overlanders do get into...
It depends on the level of overlanding that you're doing, though. I mean, that's...
You can do the overlanding
for some people, they're literally... They just want to be able to go on dirt roads.
Yeah.
Right? So minimal lift, minimal sized tires. You're trying to still increase your fuel efficiency, things like that. But you're not really going to try and go out and tackle some of those more technical trails, right? Because you got to carry all your stuff with you. That's going to really affect how your vehicle handles on the road, and also you don't want to be tossing your stuff around the entire trip.
I heard a good term the other day. I think it was on a YouTube video or Instagram or something, where somebody referred to it as building a rock lander, where they wanted their overlander to be a hardcore off-road vehicle. And I think we're starting to see some of that blend where, like Trevor was saying, going back, call it 3, 4, 5 years ago, overlanding was basically reserved for full-bodied, full-size SUVs that could haul 5 people and all your gear in one shot. And,
definitely not XJs.
Yeah, and
I don't know. Talk to Marshall. He may beg to differ.
yeah. Well,
But again, that's a more recent thing, right?
Yeah.
People
Right.
are now XJs have been the shit boxes of the off-road world that people have bought for $300 to go trash in the woods, and now people are realizing, a stock or minimally lowered Jeep will still travel pretty well down the road, but it's still capable, capable right out of the box.
yeah,
kind of thing.
I think with a lot of people in the industry point towards COVID, right? Everything was closed. People had this interest in it, right? And they were camping, but now your favorite campground is closed. You don't have the services at a KOA. So what do? And then all of a sudden car camping was a thing. And then people realized like, oh wait, this already exists. It's called overlanding. And now the market has just exploded, right? Like, it used to be Forerunner, Tacoma, where that was it. That was overlanding. You had
What was your high dollar vehicles too?
Well, right,
like
but-
people with Land Rovers would do
but-
it.
but
The LX 470s.
right, but off the dealer lot, you can get a TRD Pro. You got a rear locker. You got a mild lift kit. You got all-terrain tires. You got a roof rack. You were done.
Well, the Nissan just hit it with is it the Pro 4X with the Nissan?
Well, Pro
That they just
4X
released in the Frontier that's like
Sure. But
really
so the
competitive,
Frontier
too.
and the Xterra, they were all competitors to the Tacoma and the Forerunner. But with COVID and the growth in it, right? Like, I have SEMA just released their market report for 2022 last week. I haven't read through it yet, but previously, truck and off road in the aftermarket segment has been the fastest growing by leaps and bounds.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting to a point where it's going to surpass classic restoration and muscle cars, which
That doesn't surprise me, though.
for years and years and years has been the biggest segment of the automotive aftermarket. And a lot of it is because people are realizing that it's fun, right?
then you can actually use your vehicle every weekend
Right.
opposed to
Right.
track days and
Exactly. Not to say that those parts of the market are shrinking. They're holding steady. They're just not showing the same growth. The truck and off-road market is growing to the point where the muscle car guys are going, oh, this is why everybody's got Jeeps and Forerunners and going off-road. Like, this is a lot of fun. Like, I can dump this money into my vehicle and it doesn't just sit in my garage and I take it to Cars and Coffee. I actually get a benefit out
Yeah,
of
I went through
out of
that.
the money.
I went through that transition too because I did the muscle
Yeah.
car thing for a long time.
Same.
And then my first car was my CJ, and
Yep.
I fell in love with the off roading because it's so much more accessible. And overlanding is making it even more accessible to the everyman.
Well,
because
I think that's why people get into overlanding prior to off-roading, right? Because you can go to the dealership,
Correct.
buy something right off the lot that is capable enough, and you can just get up and go. Whereas with off-roading, yeah, there's stuff out there that you can go with a stock vehicle. I mean, obviously, we've all proven that, but
you just
if
you
you
just
want-
made a lot of overlanders mad by calling it separating overlanding from off roading.
but that's the thing is, I mean, they are separate things, right? Because you can go on an off-roading trip and not pack everything into your vehicle, right? You can tow your rig to an off-roading trip. You're not going to tow your rig to an overlanding trip. The whole point of an overlanding trip
True.
is using your vehicle
Correct.
for the entirety of the trip,
Right.
for everything, right? With off-roading, at least in our experience, it's been
Like
more
rock
of
crawling and mudding
It's been
and-
rock crawling and mudding where you may break your vehicle unintentionally on an obstacle, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's where tow rigs come into play, and that's where camping where you're playing
Yep.
comes into play, right?
not-
that
yeah.
you are already at your destination. You're not going for anything further.
Yeah.
You're there for the obstacles, for the rock
Well,
gardens.
And it's funny because that mindset has kind of creeped its way into overlanding. We see these overland trailers becoming a thing where you can haul most of your gear in a trailer, park it at the campsite, wherever it is, and now you're free to go explore some cool trails.
Well, a lot of these
Well,
guys
we
also
just looked
carry,
at those the other day with PJ. I
Yeah.
mean, these things are getting insane. $40,000-$50,000 trailers
Right.
with
Self-contained power,
king size
water, and-
beds,
yeah.
interior kitchens, all this stuff. I think looking at it now, it's kind of the evolution from the rooftop tent too, right? Because the biggest thing with the rooftop tents was if you were going to go rock crawling with one, you
got all that
essentially had to
weight.
pack up your campsite every single day to go rock crawling. Then they came with the driveway rooftop tent. Once you
Yeah.
set it up, it's got its own feet. You drive out from under it, you're good to go. Now these overlanding trailers
haven't
are
seen
that
those yet.
next step. I haven't seen any in the woods, but they're definitely online. There's a big online presence for them. But that's, the next step of that evolution was the overlanding trailers. Now overlanders are afforded the ability to, like you said, go and park wherever they're going to go romp around for the day. All they got to do is unhook their trailer. Then they don't have to worry about tossing their stuff around in their vehicle while they're going on plane. So
those
now
trailers are also really cool because you also get the matching wheel and tire setup too.
Yep.
And use your trailer spares as
well. Yeah. You see these trailers are on 35s. They have independent suspension. Again, scrolling through Instagram, saw one where somebody's got a full Icon coilover kit on their with independent suspension on a trailer, and it's like that suspension costs more than my entire rock crawling rig.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the independent suspension, in all honesty, that's probably geared more towards the overlanding
100%
than anything else, right? Because as we've talked about before, that solid front axle on the road is going to get its ass kicked by independent front suspension all day long.
Yeah, the independent front suspension is designed for comfort and efficiency. Mm-hmm. It's not, you're seeing companies building super long travel independent front suspensions. You're paying for it, right? There's always that cost when it comes to building a rig of, is it worth it for me to spend this $10,000 here versus there? And I think the overlanding world is so unique in the fact that you can build it to do whatever you want it to do, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
Where rock crawling, less you build, the less you're going to get to do.
Yep.
You can, like we were talking about, you can take that stock 4Runner and you can go run all these public fire roads, right? Like here in Virginia, we have hundreds of miles of dirt fire road through national forests.
Yep.
It's free access. It's easy to get to, and there's all this free camping. You don't need to drop $20,000 into a rig to do that. You can get a pop-up tent from Walmart. Shout out.
Yeah.
Still waiting for that sponsor check.
Send the check.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And then bring a cooler, get a 12-volt fridge. You don't have to go crazy.
Yeah.
If you want to go crazy, you can. You can get a dual battery setup. You can get the solar setup, and you can be off grid for 2-3 days and keep fresh food and like you guys talked about last week. The cooking aspect of it, right? You can have more than peanut butter and jelly because you've built out this cool rig. Some people want that. Some people don't need it. With rock crawling, if you don't have a solid front axle, you don't have skid plates, you don't have lockers, you don't have big tires, you're not going to have access to the same trails that people who have that.
Yeah.
True,
have.
but I think the flip side of that is, like you said, there's more overlanding trails, quote unquote, than there are rock crawling trails, right? So you do get that other benefit to it, right? Each one has its pros and cons. The more you build your rig, the better places you can go, but there's fewer of those places. So you end up traveling to the same places. The beauty of overlanding.
Yeah. I think that's a natural progression of any hobby though, right? Like your entry level, you get into it, you go, this is fun. You get tied into it, you make friends, your friends are going cool places, and you go, I want to go there. And then you start, okay, I do need this fridge, I do need this tent, I do need 35s. I think that's the benefit of starting to see this blend, like I said, the rock landing blend, where you can build yourself a pretty badass vehicle that will go anywhere. And maybe it's not ideal to go run the Rubicon Trail or some of these big crazy trails that we see at the Cove that have massive boulders. Because, my biggest thing about rooftop tents, if I put a rooftop tent on my trail rig and I break an axle and that thing's got to sit overnight on the trail, like now I'm quote unquote homeless, right? Like what do you do? Or you lean into the tree and crush your $5,000 tent. Like, I'm a firm believer in drive for what you've built.
What would you build?
For what? Overlanding?
What's your top of the budget overlander?
Now, dude. Oh, top budget.
So we're gonna do top budget.
Top budget.
Rivian.
We're
Right
gonna do
there.
a top budget.
Rivian.
And we're gonna do a low budget.
Yeah.
Rivian all the way.
Now, due to my crippling ADD, this would change week to week. But right now, top budget is definitely the Rivian. I had the pleasure of getting to drive one a few days ago. They are awesome. It is the first electric car that actually, I think, functions as a car. So many electric cars are just tech. They're toys, right? Like, they're just there to be cool, new technology. They're not there to be cars. which I think is a big, well, for me being a car guy, is a big factor in what I buy.
Do you think the aftermarket's going to catch up to the Rivian? And there's going to be lift kits?
It doesn't need it. So from
you can get stuff from Rivian that will outfit your vehicle. So they've got factory.
The base model Rivian, basically you can choose between a dual motor or a quad motor. If you get the
quad, for people that don't know what the Rivian is, what is it?
So the Rivian is a startup EV company. They have the R1T, which is their 4-door pickup truck. They will have the R1S, which is a 3-row SUV coming out soon,
which looks amazing.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's the first electric car, or electric vehicle, I should say, because it's not a car, that is, in my opinion, cool. Tesla.
I don't disagree. The interior on them
it's beautiful,
fantastic.
But they actually wanted it to function as a vehicle, so it's got a great towing capacity. It works. The regenerative braking technology is fantastic. Motor Trend actually took 3 of them on the Trans-American Trail a while back, which is...
Yeah, we talked about that at SEMA last year when we were doing that.
So the Trans-American Trail is Nags Head, North Carolina to Washington State, mostly off-road, no interstates, a lot of dirt roads. And, from an electric vehicle standpoint, that means limited charging.
But they were getting, close to 400 miles per charge.
So the benefit to doing it off-road was it was low speed, so it was easy to be very efficient, but also a lot of up and down hills. That downhill, that regenerative braking is charging the battery. It's adding almost 50 miles of range on its high circuit.
And that's off-roading.
Correct. So there's a part where this group comes down Black Bear Pass in Colorado, and they actually end up at the bottom of the pass with more range than they started at the top of the pass.
That's wild.
Because it's so much downhill, and they just basically coasted all the way downhill.
Well, like you were saying the other day, the braking
it's aggressive.
It is aggressive.
Yeah, it works really well.
On the highest setting, you can imagine going down a hill.
Yeah,
that thing would essentially just coast itself.
The way I equated it to Trevor and even to Adrian was it's like driving something with air brakes, where the brakes are so strong you don't need them, so you use the engine brake.
Okay.
And the engine brake in this case is the regenerative braking, which is charging the battery.
So since it is electric and the staple of overlanding is a snorkel, are you going to see a snorkel on a Rivian?
But that's the thing, you don't need it.
Because it's got no...
you don't need it. You don't need a snorkel on a lot of things.
Somebody
are you
going to
see one?
I'm sure somebody will. Somebody who doesn't know any better, just for the aesthetics, because they don't realize a snorkel actually has a function.
From a technical standpoint, it's not necessary.
But even at that, Rivian advertises, I think, almost 3 feet of wading ability from the factory.
Which is impressive.
Like 3 feet. I mean, that's waist deep, chest deep water on most people.
Yep.
Right? That's a ton of water for a vehicle to go through. And then add to that, you have a basically infinitely adjustable suspension that's air.
Well, speaking of that, Rivian, if you're listening,
we'd love to get our hands on one.
Also, we'd love you to listen.
Well, we'd love to get our hands on one, but because you gave it to someone who beats the crap out of it.
Well,
if you're driving one, don't try and adjust your suspension more than like
15 times 5 minutes.
Yeah, because it will overheat your compressor.
But that's anything in
the
the automotive world. But right? If you abuse it, you're gonna break it.
From a review standpoint.
Yeah.
So with the Rivian, you're gonna do a
Dirt Nerds
trailer
green.
tent.
I would.
The green, obviously the green.
So
have you seen the green on it?
Yeah,
I have.
It's Dirt Nerds green. It's fantastic.
There's one in Leesburg I see all the time. It looks so.
And I don't care what Adrian says. I'm sure the induction cooker on that thing is money.
Oh yeah.
Considering the quality of everything else on that,
you're getting ahead here. So the quad motor setup that they come with is essentially an all-wheel drive system, but it has infinite capability of locked, unlocked, low range, high range. So this idea of gearing, right? Because it's all electric, you literally have whatever gearing the computer decides you need at that instance. And then on top of that, you can lock all 4 wheels together, which even in most cases, if you have a limited slip, or if you're not running a full spool
front
axle, you're not actually getting 4-wheel drive.
Yep.
So now you've just got all this traction, all this power. The range is more than capable for most trips. Is it a complete off-grid replacement? Probably not. They say the car can sit idle, just running its accessories for like 7 days before you have a power issue.
Damn.
But
we all know how that goes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of vehicles out there that'll claim they can idle for however long.
Well, it's also one thing to empty your range 10 miles from a charger.
Yeah.
You know, if you're 500 miles from a charger and you only have 100 miles left when you get off the trail, you're SOL.
Yep.
So I don't think it's a full replacement, but right now, top dollar budget, I'd get the Rivian fully loaded. You know, it comes with this camp kitchen option that fits in this cool cubby that's behind the back seats, kind of in the truck bed, but it slides out the side. It can go out either side. It's a full electric induction cooker
And I found
that
out
runs
you
off the
do have
battery
access to that area
from the back seat.
From the back seat,
yeah, which is
wild.
really
Cool.
slick.
So if you don't have that kitchen setup, you just use it as extra storage.
Yeah.
And then you have access through the back seat to that storage area. Which
The
is
Rivian, the Rivian we had at the shop the other day was parked next to a stock Bronco with a Sasquatch package, and at full off-road ride height, you get 15 inches of ground clearance.
It was as tall as
It was as tall as the Bronco Sasquatch with 35s.
It was wild.
From the factory, you're getting I think they're 34.2 inch tires, like a 295 65 20
That's
or
bigger
something.
than I thought it'd be.
Yeah,
Well, the wheel options too are it's 18, 20, or 22.
well, that's because the regenerative braking system's so
Yeah.
massive. You need to have big wheels. But you can get a street tire. You can get an aggressive all-terrain. Like, you have all these off-road packages that you're getting because that's what they designed it for. Will it fully replace it? Yeah, I mean, if the network of trails and chargers and, you know, you start to see chargers in more remote areas, yeah, I could see it being kind of the perfect overlander. You'll never run out of gas. You can sit idle. You don't need solar. You don't need all this stuff. It's great. It's ridiculously expensive. I mean, a fully loaded Rivian is going to cost you $100,000, which great value. Still,
But really, compared to I mean, you had that Terra Overland Jeep in. Compared to that, it's about the same.
yeah, but if you gave me the choice between the two for a week-long overlanding trip, I'm going to take that Jeep.
Oh yeah,
Because again, you still run in the biggest issue being
but
if you run out of electricity.
That's the $100,000 comparison right there.
I mean,
But
you can make the same
not,
argument for gas, though, right? Like, you can run out of gas just as easily as you can run out of
But
battery.
you can carry jerry cans with you.
You can also, gas is more accessible. If you
Yes.
can, you know, you're going to be limited to how
You
much
can
you
carry
can
a generator with you and charge your vehicle, but
Right, but that
We've all seen the meme of the Tesla though.
yeah, but even that, your generator's only going to charge that battery so quick,
Yes.
and that's going to need fuel. So now you're carrying fuel for your generator for your electric car.
Yep.
It gets a little redundant at some point.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, the you know,
as far as top dollar vehicles, it's gonna top it out.
I'll call it the traditional version of overlanding. The idea is you're not dependent on anything.
Correct.
And I think having an electric car makes you dependent on your route, on your charging ability.
But planning the route is also a ton of fun when it comes to overlanding.
100%.
So having
True.
to plan for
But-
charging stations and regen braking and all that stuff would be just another added layer to planning for that trip.
Yeah, but that makes it more tedious because with your generic vehicle, with your fuel-based vehicle, you don't have to think about, oh man, let me pick.
You do to an extent. You still have to plan your gas stations. You just have more accessibility to a gas station. You are more likely to find a gas station in the middle of nowhere than you are to find a rapid charger.
Well, but that's more to that point of instead of picking trails because they will allow you to have regenerative braking, you just pick the trails you want to do.
True.
Right. So it adds a little bit of tedium to it, but.
Well, and I think the other factor for me when building a rig is what Tim brought up is the aftermarket support, right?
Well, that's where your budget rigs come in because a lot of those are.
But even if you have an unlimited budget, you have a lot more options.
True.
Yeah.
You know, I can take that same $100,000 for a Rivian. I can buy an XJ and I can do stupid things.
Well,
I'm limited by the platform, but anything I can imagine, I can do to an XJ.
But that's
or I can do to a
but that's the
4Runner.
beauty of it because if you have those budget platforms, you know, for someone who's just getting into it,
100%.
you know, you've got the old school Tacomas, the XJs that are, you know, the market's a little crazy right now, but they're at least still relatively inexpensive. You can go buy a decent stock XJ for $3,000.
Yeah.
And you've got that extra, you know, the $100,000 you're going to spend on the Rivian. If you truly have that budget to buy that outright, that $100,000 into a $3,000 XJ
Goes a long way.
goes a long way. and then some.
Yeah, and we're using XJs as just kind of
A placeholder.
because like
Square headlight squad, bro.
but because there's so many other options, right? Like you can. That's the other factor overlanding that makes it so accessible. Is
You can do it on a budget.
basically anything that's all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive.
Would you
can be
do
an
a
overlander.
Would you do a tent or a trailer, or like a rooftop tent or a trailer tent?
Do a truck bed tent
So
with a Baja.
personally, like if I'm doing strictly overlanding with it, I'm probably gonna do a rooftop tent. I think that the trailer is a great option. I think the trailer still kind of
You're still not talking about budget friendly though.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But
We're talking like
yeah.
CRVs with 31s when we go to budget friendly.
Yeah.
like real white trash.
Yeah.
I would pay to see that.
There's a guy that posts on the Virginia 4x4 off-road page, and he's got one that he bounces around
I
in the
think
woods.
the part that blew my mind that I found out recently is the new thirsty Trevor.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a little warm in the garage today.
Yeah, a little bit. The Toyota RAV4 now has a TRD Pro package.
That's so cool.
And like even like Honda,
I love that.
Honda's got their new Trail Sport
Well,
packages.
who was it that was it? What did we find out the other day? Bilstein is the stock shock for something. Or who was that?
No, Falcon tires.
That's
yeah.
right.
So like,
Oh, that's
like
right.
if you buy the TRD RAV4, you're getting Falcon AT Trails, which is
An awesome tire.
like Falcon's great tires, but it's based on their Wild Peak, which is a phenomenal all terrain. And now we're seeing those coming on.
We're seeing commuting cars.
Use CRVs,
Well, and
CUVs, right? These small SUVs that were reserved for college chicks and soccer moms are now coming with skid plates, lifts,
Shout out to
and
the
all
Patriots.
terrains.
The wheels that come on the TRDs are also like methods, aren't they? Aren't they
They're
method
similar. They're
standards?
similar
in
style.
style,
Yeah.
okay.
It's that whole
I don't
race
think they
wheel
could bag
simulated.
method just
I think
yet.
I think they could.
Not for the CRV. If you're
Yeah.
talking, if you're
Like,
talking the
like
Forerunner,
the Forerunners and the Tacomas.
they could.
They're
but
very method-y.
That's asking a lot.
Yeah, but you're still. I mean,
Think how many they sell.
yeah.
Right, like not everyone's
Method
gonna go
wouldn't be
for
able
that.
to do. I'm assuming Method can't do the production because all their shit's back ordered. But that's
Oh shit!
shots fired,
Method, send the check.
and the wheels. the there's so many options out there. Like you can't just say one thing works or doesn't work.
Yeah.
Rock crawling is a different story. We know what works. We know what best practice is for strength, for
Well,
for,
I mean,
for
it's-
abilities,
And it's
for
not
performance.
independent front suspension, Timothy.
I mean, some of these rock bouncers and Ultra 4 cars,
Yeah.
that win King of Hammers on the IFS
but
IRS
King of
setup.
Hammers is a very specific,
Well,
That's the hardest rock crawling in the world.
That goes back to.
but that's also a race.
True.
It also has. It goes back to what I said before. Cost benefit analysis, right? You can spend $100,000 on a front independent front suspension and make it stronger than a solid front axle.
Absolutely.
Is it worth it?
Nope.
Yeah, if you're racing King of Hammers, it's absolutely worth it.
Bouncing around the
because-
cove? No.
Yeah, but it's not accessible to the normal person. Back to your question of trailer versus tent. That trailer is that's a base camp type setup.
Yeah.
You're going to a specific location. You're going to set up camp. You're going to leave it behind. I probably because of my instincts as a rock crawler, don't want to be towing a trailer down trails. Even basic trails, like
No.
it's a comfort thing. It's a breakdown thing. It's
It's added power and weight that you need too.
Who was it? It was
Sure.
Dirt Every Day that they tried to tow their trailers up the trail.
they-
Right?
Oh, that
they also just memed that.
Okay, yeah, that's
True.
That whole
But-
episode was a meme.
But it brings up a valid point.
that was a
if you're-
cheap truck challenge. They used like a Bronco 2 with the worst V6 ever built.
I
Like,
understand, but it's still that's to your point. Of,
Yeah,
that even proves that towing something behind you while trying to go up some of those trails is going to cause problems.
It's always going to go back to take the trails, drive. Your driving style should be dictated by what you've built. If you have a trailer, you shouldn't be going through oil pan deep mud. You shouldn't be going over boulders. If you want to, go for it. There's consequences to it. And like I
the
said,
trailer gets stuck.
my rock crawling background says I don't want the trailer. I would rather take my chances breaking down and being stuck on a trail with my tent
Yep.
than having to be stuck on a trail with my trailer, which has my tent and all my crap in it.
And it's sideways,
and,
like
and now the trailer's broken and the Jeep's broken or the truck's broken or whatever it is. And we're East Coast guys, right? We have
better rock crawling.
We have woods. We have big rocks. We have slippery
You're
rocks.
full of spicy comments today,
It
Trevor, aren't
rains.
you?
Yeah, we're a little saucy, and like I think out west there's a lot more use for a trailer because it's flat desert, it's washboard roads, it's river crossings, it's smaller things that make it easier. You don't have to. You've got plenty of space to turn around if you need to.
Well, and inside the desert, you're going hundreds of miles away from anything.
Right. So the added cargo space is good. The added generators, the solar, all that extra stuff you can fit in a trailer has a huge benefit.
Yeah, so I think I'd go the opposite. I think I'd do a Gladiator with
Gladiator.
Yeah, I think I'd do a Gladiator. Okay. Rubicon.
Have you heard of Buddy's setup for his Gladiator that he wants to do? Were you there that
Rooftop
day?
tent?
No.
I think he just sold his rooftop tent.
Yeah,
really?
so he found a guy who's got the same color Gladiator as him.
Is it
He wants to build a bed with a Gladiator bed.
that'd be so cool.
Build a trailer.
So he's already got the guy who's
he said he found the bed.
Yeah, because the guy who has the other Gladiator is swapping beds.
Buddy, if you're listening, I have a better idea.
Yeah, but
Flatbed the Gladiator, and then we'll use your existing bed for the trailer. Call me.
That'd be
yeah,
cool.
but his bed's all janky.
Even more of a reason to use it for a trailer.
I don't disagree, but Buddy, he's not going to do that.
No matter what he does, it's going to get janky. He's going to wreck it eventually.
True.
We saw that with the Bahara.
Back to your
But
Gladiator.
so are you towing behind the Gladiator? Are you towing a trailer? Or are you doing rooftop? Or are you doing bed tent in the Gladiator? Really?
I do
a
low profile bed tent, so they have the back racks that don't come all the way up the cab.
Yeah.
So the beds, the rooftop tent sits level with that.
Those are nice.
Mojave, I did the Mojave.
Yeah.
Because you already got the upgraded
That's ready
suspension.
to go out the
Those
door.
are so. I'd probably put a 37 on the Mojave though.
Well, because with the AV kit, you could do that, can't you? You could throw a 37 on there.
Yeah, you can fit a 37 with a spacer kit.
Yeah.
I mean, then you're not losing the Mojave.
Get the Rubicon flares.
Yeah. Then
Fit that 37 real nice.
The slide in the slide rack system the bed slides.
Oh yeah.
Those are so fantastic.
Yeah, I think my realistic build would be.
I'd like to do that with my truck and pull my Jeep with that. Do like an overlanding.
Do a Petrie. Do a Petrie move.
No, because he has an overlanding tow trailer. His rooftop tent sits on a rack that he built on his trailer.
Yeah.
He parks his Jeep under.
He doesn't have a rooftop tent.
It does.
On his trailer.
On
his second trailer.
Oh, yes, on his second trailer. Yeah. What he tows around is his JK on 35s towing
to his camper.
teardrop camper.
Yeah.
No. True. But his other setup is just a car trailer, and he parks under his rooftop tent.
Yeah, that's his
which is really sweet.
Which is really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that time and time again where guys take those trailers, take the wheels off, and just...
Yeah, it's like a mini crawler hauler type thing. I think for me, a good like realistic / budget build. I love the Jeep Commander. Get the good Hemi V8.
Oh man, how many times have we talked about that?
Three rows has
V8.
V8 has decent aftermarket support. You can get a lift kit. You can fit 33s on it pretty easily.
Except for parking brake levers.
Well, we figured that one out. And they're comfortable, right? It's that early generation of the Hemi is a pretty solid, reliable engine.
My bad.
Stop
moving my mic around.
Oh, yeah, well, we're learning. And obviously we can play budget games all day long, but we might have to save that for another episode because that's pretty much a whole other episode in itself.
Yeah, we got a little sidetracked on the Rivian, but it's
it's that good.
But I think
Rivian, it's
that's
that good. Send us one.
But we
need an official podcast video or vehicle, so we can go on locations and interview people and do cool things.
A remote power system.
But I think that's
we should plug the
we could put a camper top on the back, sit in the back, do a whole traveling studio in the Rivian.
Honestly, you could just do it from the inside the cab. It's that quiet and comfortable. We could do it while we're driving because it has a self-driving feature.
But I think I think why we ended up spending so much time on that is because with overlanding specifically,
there's so many things.
There's
we might have to do a part 2.
Well, but that's kind of my point, right? Is that like everyone kind of knows when it comes to off-roading vehicles how much money is going to get you what, right? Like the amount of money you spend is going to get you a similar vehicle, quote unquote, to everyone else who's at that same level. With overlanding, that same amount of money that you spend can get you vastly different products, right?
Yeah.
It's that $100,000, whether you want to build it into a single rig with a tent, build it into a rig with a trailer. There's so many different avenues because so many vehicles can be turned into Overlanders. Not every vehicle can be turned into a true rock crawler.
In theory, you could take anything overlanding, right? That's kind of
I
the
mean,
point.
they make an all-terrain, mud-terrain so small that you can
Right.
fit it on a...
Well, but think how many Overlanders use Subarus, right? Like they use Outbacks and Foresters and things that people look at as regular commuter cars, but Subarus are all-wheel drive. They're the perfect Overlander.
They're kind of the original Overlander,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like Overlanding's not a new thing.
No. The Subaru Baja, money.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
I want them to bring it back. Subaru, bring back the Baja.
They might. We're seeing the Mavericks and the
That's
true.
the Santa Cruz.
That's true.
We're seeing
the
all
light,
these.
the light
Yeah,
truck,
the
light truck
small
segment is coming
small
back,
truck area is
which
definitely
I'm so
coming
excited
back.
for. I can't wait till someone makes a high horsepower small truck.
What I think is as
cannot
weird as it sounds,
Ford,
I think
send us a Maverick.
yeah,
Higher horsepower.
As weird as it sounds, I think
big
you have
turbo 4-banger.
No, we need a Holden Ute style, but 4-wheel drive.
No, but here's the thing: it's 2022. V8s are going out the window. It's all about twin turbo, high revving.
Don't break my heart.
Listen.
Look, with where gas prices are, you need V8s to go out the window.
My truck is parked right now.
So is mine. I got nothing against big displacement, big horsepower craziness. There is so much benefit to the technology that comes with small displacement turbos, and there's so much more you can do with a turbo. Yeah, I would love a fat V8 or the 4-liter that makes great torque. They all have their place. That you can do great things with all of them. But where the industry is going and where the market is going, we're gonna see some wild stuff.
It's called the replacement for displacement for a reason.
Yeah.
And you get more horsepower out of it too,
and better fuel efficiency.
and
better weight ratios and balances in the vehicle. Like there's so much benefit to these high compression, turbocharged, direct injected 4-cylinders we're seeing, right? Like you go back to the 60s, right, where they put horsepower ratings on motors, right? Like a 350 was a 350 horsepower motor. You got a horsepower per cubic inch. That's bananas.
Fun trivia fact there for everybody.
Yeah. Well, it all depends on what package you got. But
True.
Yeah, it's there. You see the 450 from the factory, which, fun trivia fact, most muscle cars in the late 60s were 450
They lied about
horsepower,
their horsepower.
for insurance purposes.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they advertised it at the actual, there was a limit that, insurance companies actually cared about horsepower, not just about returns.
Well, they still do to a limit, don't they? Isn't Ford
no, 'cause-
tuning down their numbers on like the Broncos and the Raptors and all that for insurance purposes?
I don't know if it's insurance purposes as much as it is marketing.
The fright factor, like
Yeah.
707 horsepower is a lot.
Right, because that's the thing, right? Like, it's not that there aren't cars for sale that are 1,000 horsepower on the street now, right? Like, which is a crazy thing to think
Legal
about.
supercars.
Yeah.
But we're also seeing that same 250, 300 horsepower out of 2-liter engines.
Yep.
Right, like. If
Which
you,
is
went,
nuts.
if you went back to the 60s
100
and
horsepower
walked into
cylinder,
GM
like, what the
headquarters and
hell?
we're like, hey, I'm going to cut your engine in half and make it half of half, and we're going to get the same horsepower that you're getting out of this. Oh, and it's going to get 35 miles to the gallon. You'd be laughed out of the building.
Yep.
And now here we are, like my wife's car is a 1.8 liter turbo. It gets 35 miles to the gallon, and it's because it's got I think it's a 7 or 8 speed transmission in it. The thing's like a little mini rocket ship. Like,
Brittany's is the same way. The Santa Fe that she has is a 2.0 turbo.
Yeah.
It's freaking wild that we've got these cars on the road now that you're just
and they're heavy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like every new car on the market is fat.
Yeah.
Like it's the perfect analogy to America, right?
We're getting political now.
Everything is fat in America. It's fantastic.
fat with a PH.
Yeah, we'll go thick. Yeah, it's thick. Three Qs.
Still good looking, but it's got a little weight on it.
Well, we get these stock XJs in the shop all the time, and I always forget how small a stock XJ is.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is so tiny.
Like
mine has 6.5 inches of lift on it, and it's still smaller than a 2-inch JK.
Yeah,
Well,
we put a 3-inch lift on an X-ray the other day and pulled it out and parked it next to a stock JL Rubicon, and the JL Rubicon was like laughing at it, like, "Ha, it's a small child next to me."
Well, because you think about
They get him in the woods, and the Cherokee's like, "Ha, you're an idiot."
Yeah, because it fits between the trees, and the bank doesn't own it.
like a Rubicon will fit 35s with nothing, right? But you look at an XJ and you go, what do we need to do to fit 33s? Oh, 6 inches of lift. Like,
Tub it, yeah.
Holy crap.
No, 35 still don't fit on my 6-inch lift XJ.
Yeah, you got to do
I said
6 inch lift.
33s.
Yeah.
33s.
That's
Yeah.
well, 4.5.
Oh, they still rub. 33 still rub. But we're getting a little off topic. Let's let's wrap it up. And,
But
Tune in next week. We'll have a part 2 on overlanding because
we're going to get into the budget builds aspect of it. We got a little more in depth with the top dollar builds, but that's kind of the beauty of the overlanding world.
Cover some more of equipment that's out there and things that we can.
With that same $100,000 that you spent on one vehicle,
$5
we'll
grand,
look at the budget.
build.
And then and then
you'll-
Tim will give us the $5,000 build.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because that's Tim's expertise.
I love $5,000 bills.
Yep.
All right, guys. Cool. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to see you guys next week. Check us out on all socials at The Dirt Drive. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.
Thanks.